Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. Looked like it was going to be just another day on Wall Street when we open lower and then trade higher. That's what we've been doing throughout June. And then all of a sudden, the Chinese news agencies reported that President Xi and President Trump were having conversations and the markets took off. We'll have the 411 for you, the latest on today's Rebel's Edge. Bang. Pete, do you think I look younger without the goatee or with the goatee?
Everybody always comes up to me. They go, "Hey, Pete, you're gray and your brother's not." And I go, "No, I'm just kidding." But it does make me look older. I think it lifts me up to the. I don't care.
Well, we might have to ask everybody whether or not Pete should have a dark.
I might have to start, doing something to this thing, I'll tell you. Or shave it off, which is a possibility. Who knows? Probably not.
Well, welcome back to the Rebel's Edge, folks. He is Pete Najarian, one of our sponsors, William and Harry. Yeah, that's right. The Royals are all over my hat. Actually, it's not the Royals. They might be Royals, but it's Wendy and Rhett Butler.
Yeah,
but anyway. Yeah, they're sort of Royals.
Yeah.
Let's get started with the Rebel's Edge, Pete. I was going to say that the ECB announced a 20 basis point cut to its key interest rate, but instead I'm going to focus on Xi Jinping and President Trump getting together for an hour and a half on the phone, and the president of our country saying that we are that close to a deal. And if that's the case and you're short, you're in a world of hurt, my friends.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to agree with you, John. I had something completely different too. I was looking at this data that there a lot of folks are starting to raise money because of the tariffs and what that's going to mean and everything else. But I think this definitely, quote unquote, trumps it all. I mean, the fact that he's had the conversations with Putin and now he's having conversations with Xi. I think that we have to pay very close attention to that. Now, does it mean that they've absolutely agreed on everything? Probably not. But it sounds like a lengthy call that has turned into something that could be pretty daggone positive for the markets. I wouldn't fool around and be short in front of it. That's for sure.
No. And you know what else you don't want to be short, Pete? On the fantastic futures that I'm going to cover? Silver. Silver, nearly $36 to the ounce. Just an amazing run for silver. And you know what? We've had a lot of unusual option activity known as UOA by us and our subscribers. Unusual option activity is when people come and they buy, either calls or puts. And since they're buying calls, that's bullish. Take a look at that chart. The silver just moonshot to the upside. And then take a look at that unusual activity. That's why I'm saying silver, Pete, deserves a little respect today.
Oh, boy, do they ever. I mean, we already have had this huge run again for gold to get back up and over that 3,400 mark. Now, it's floating right near that, but that's been a big run. But now all of a sudden, silver's been kind of hidden behind and moving up. And actually, like you said, we got up and over 36 today. They passed right through 35. Then it started to pull back just a little bit, but it was up 4.5% that I think at the highs. And to your point, yeah, we've got some UOA in there. Hecla being one of them. That's a stock that was up 11%. You can bet this. If the stock's up 11%, I would bet you that the options have done pretty well as well. Maybe even a little bit better or a lot better. And First Majestic, another one. And even somebody like Vale, that's not where they really sit, but they do have exposure. They do have silver as part of what they do. So there's a lot of those three have had some huge options to the upside. And I think that it's something to pay attention to right now because silver's been up here once before, not too long ago, around 35, pulled right back. This time up and over 36. We'll see if it pulls back or not. But I like what we're seeing in the options world.
Well, like you say, it hasn't really pulled back much at all today, Pete.
No.
Still, just a fabulous performance for silver. And the SLV itself, the silver ETF, Normally trades about 20 million shares. It's trading 31 million going into midday today. So pretty nice performance there.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive into MDB. You could always kind of focus on the DB part of it, database, because that's what they do. Wedbush kept an outperform and a $300 price target on it. This is cloud-based database platforms. Try to say that 3 times fast. But wow, what a performance, Pete, and up 15% for a multi-billion-dollar number like this, I'd say pretty strong.
And they may have a lot more room even to the upside, John. I mean, if you look at the 52 weeks low and the high, it was 140 to 370. And today, last I looked, it was trading right around 230. And like you pointed out, Wedbush has got a $300 price target for them. So when you come in and you beat on the earnings the way they did, they actually put up $1. They were supposed to put up 66 cents. The revenue is up 22% year over year. I would say that they absolutely crushed it. And on top of everything else, absolutely pristine when it comes to the balance sheet. I like what we're seeing here. This is a stock up 15%. I don't know that they're done. I think this is one of those that could continue this run to the upside for a while.
Well, what about Brown-Forman, Pete? Because these guys are the parent company of anything Jack Daniels, first of all. So that's all the rock and roll group needs to hear, because rock and rollers tend to really like Jack. But also, they've got Herradura, El Jimador, Chambord, Ford's Gin, and Diplomatico Rum, among others. I mean, literally, it's like 25 names that they've got within Brown-Forman, sort of like Constellation. They're a very diverse offering of liquors. But the shares are down 15%, Pete, because they say it's a challenging operating environment. And I'd say all you got to do is take a sniff around any major city and you know why. Because if you smell a skunk that ain't a skunk in downtown New York or Chicago or San Francisco, chances are that's what people are doing instead of drinking booze.
So they're going to the vape instead of the booze.
Yes.
You know, you might be right on that, John. And, you know, we always talk about the trade down effect, right? And maybe they're trading down on the alcohol that they're drinking, potentially, right? I mean, it's possible. They pay a little bit less for something that's not the same brand that they've always had, but it still gives them the same sort of feel. Whatever the case, they're getting crushed, and they cannot be. It's like they're in quicksand right now, John. I mean, everywhere you look, the numbers that they put up, the stock has gotten absolutely beaten to the downside. The shorts in this particular name are doing very, very well with the stock down over 15%. I would say at some point in time, the shorts might start thinking about maybe covering that short interest. But for right now, when you look at the earnings that they missed, by the way, they put up earnings of 31 cents. They were looking for 34. A year ago, it was 56 cents. So you get a little bit of an idea of how much of a struggle it's been for these guys at Brown-Forman. This is really, really tough. And by the way, the operating income down 45%. I mean, everywhere you look, they had issues going into this one. So do you want to buy, catch a falling knife? I would say absolutely not. That's not what you want to do. And that's kind of what it feels like right now. I think they're going to have to come out, John, with something that's going to be able to lift them. But right now, it's all negative for now.
Well, like I say, I wasn't just kidding, Pete. I really do think that cannabis is really having an effect on consumption of alcohol. But, 1 quarter doesn't prove that. Basically, 6 months doesn't prove it. But if we start seeing this trend lower and lower and, quote, a difficult environment, I think the difficulty is what's up in smoke, as Cheech and Chong would say.
Yeah.
All right. How about Verint Systems? These guys are AI-powered solutions, and the stock was up as much as 15% early on. Now it's cut that by a lot. It traded through $22 and then pulled back, Pete. It's $3 lower than that. It's still up 5% or maybe 5.5% on the day, but not holding on to nearly as much of a gain as I'm sure shareholders would want.
Yeah, I'm sure they're a little bit frustrated by that. I can't explain it either, John. And I swear to you, when you look at this stock and you kind of break it down a little bit and look at some of the fundamentals, when it's trading at a 6 PE, gosh, I mean, this is open platform enhanced automation. That's what these guys do. You would think that's in the catbird seat of everything you want to be able to do, right? I mean, their free cash flow, they had some growth there. The numbers that they're putting up look pretty good to me, and the demand that they're talking about. So I don't know. I think this is a stock that deserves to have been up there at 22. Now that it's pulled back a little bit, it kind of grabs me and kind of makes it a little bit more interesting. I don't know what's going on from that perspective, why they couldn't hold on up there, but from a valuation perspective, this is a stock I think we should all be watching really closely.
Well, how about this one, Pete? Because this one we have unusual activity in, and it's called Planet Labs. Basically, they launch constellations of satellites. So that means not just one satellite. They're putting up a whole bunch, kind of like Elon Musk does with a whole bunch of those Starlink satellites up at the same time, Pete. This was a $3 stock even, I think, Pete.
Yeah.
So if they were a $3.27 stock in the middle of April, and here it is now, the first week, really full week of June, Planet Labs, they were buying the July 4 calls. Well, were they right on that? Yes, they were, because it's up 54% today. And so a pretty nice move. The 4 strike calls, Pete, they paid 35 cents for those. So if you bought 10 of those, you would have spent $35 for each one, because each one's for 100 shares. So that means $350 for a 10 lot. That simulates 1,000 share position. That 10 lot is now worth over $6,000, probably $6,500. So if you want some trades like that, go to marketrebellion.com/get started, because we do stuff like this every day.
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. By the way, the volume of stock, John, in the first 90 minutes of the day averages 4 million a day, right? It was 43 million in the first 90 minutes of the day. So there's turnover there. The stock was running. It didn't get all the way up to the 52-week high, but it got really, really close at 670. They actually were, I think, was about 635, somewhere close to that. But, the revenue beat was massive. Their sales were up almost 10%. Everywhere you look across, you look at gross margins up. They were 55%. Now they're 59%. Their net loss improved. So this is a company that I think we all should pay attention to, because they had positive cash flows as well. The revenue guidance was decent. Everywhere you look, this one actually sort of checks the boxes. So can it get up and through that 52-week high? I think that's a possibility. I'm not saying it will, but I think there's at least a strong possibility, because it's run up pretty nice today. And then when you look at the company itself, fundamentally, they look really solid and they are growing rapidly.
Well, those options were 52 cents yesterday, Pete, and today they've traded as high as $2.55.
Man,
so do the math on it. That's a pretty nice return. All right. And by the way, again, go to marketrebellion.com/get started, because we really do. Our team does trades like this every day. And as long as you're disciplined about cutting losses and then taking profits on the winners, you can be at the table a long time. All right. Let's take a look at a little Kardashian curse, shall we, Pete? Because turns out that there is indeed a curse that the Kardashians have brought to the NBA. And not everybody knows about it, but some people, I'm sure Dave Portnoy and others, know about it. We thought we'd show you what happens when one of the Kardashians shows up to root for one of the teams in the NBA.
It's been 15 years since the biggest curse in the NBA began, and my Knicks just got eliminated because of it. Huge thanks to Timothy Chalamet for turning bandwagon Knicks fan to spread the curse to this beautiful city. Oh, you
it's
don't know
cursed,
about the
John. Cursed.
Let me break this down for you. Nearly 15 years ago,
look at that.
Chris Humphries was the
There's
first
my guy,
to
Chris
get out of the
Humphries.
NBA quick.
University of Minnesota, right, Pete?
University of Minnesota. I played ball with his dad, who was a guard and a center for the football team. But the kid got some hype from somewhere. I don't know where.
Another shout out to Kendall. Chandler Parsons.
Another shout out to Kendall.
Again, Jordan Clarkson.
Another shout out to Kendall.
Oh, yeah. Devin
It is
Booker
pretty amazing, though.
finals.
This
Didn't
curse
even
is
play in the
real.
playoffs this year.
Yeah.
I don't
Lamar
usually
Odom,
buy
I
into that
talk
kind of
about
crap,
what
but
happened to him on this
it's
platform.
kind of right
Lord
there in
knows
front of
that.
us,
Tristan
right?
Thompson, who cares? And now Timothy Chalamet bringing this horrible spell to my glorious.
Look at Brunson. He's like,
Should
for
be
the
glorious
glorious.
Nick.
The Kardashian curse needs to
Big
stop.
Cat's going to ask for her to
You only pick
leave.
basketball players, and do they have to be good basketball players in order to get your attention?
Man. Well,
Nope.
It's
You don't-
unfortunate. It is unfortunate, but I'm starting to believe in this thing, John. There is a curse out there, and I had not heard about it, but I do know what happened with Chris Humphries. By the way, that marriage lasted, I think, a grand total of 90 days. So gives you a little bit of an idea. There's kind of a walk in through the door and run out through the door kind of a thing going on there. Since we started with that, John, I'm going to jump right to the NBA. So the regular season, we already know ratings were pretty crappy, and as a matter of fact, dropped again, right? The playoffs, though, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, the playoffs, that's a little bit of a different story. We've had some really nice jumps in the playoffs. Matter of fact, up about 12% year over year for that. So what do you think, John, going into this? We've got the two small market teams. We all know that. But the one advantage here is there are some really young players that are really outstanding basketball players right now in the NBA. Matter of fact, one of them is this year's very best MVP. So it makes you kind of wonder with all these young stars, could they get some ratings? I'm going to say still no. And the problem is, if OKC plays like they did all season, including how they blew out the Timberwolves, we talked about that yesterday, 16 points, 25 points, 42 points, 56 points. I mean, just crazy. They weren't even games any longer. If that's what this turns into against Indiana, I would say that these ratings might be the worst they've ever had for the finals. What do you think?
Well, Pete, I'm going to say that the NHL has a similar problem.
Yeah.
Because they have some big market teams in the NHL, but they've got the Oilers and the Florida Panthers.
Right.
That ain't a recipe for ratings, but hockey is a little bit of a different animal. Outside of the Four Nations or whatever it was when the U.S. went up there and Canadian fans booed the national anthem, and our guys just went after the Canadians right at the, right at the start. Oh yeah. Well, and then the Canadians, in fairness, got their revenge in Boston when they came back and beat the Americans in Boston to win it. But that was a great way for the NHL to focus fans on that league, which has really been mainly people in the arenas, not on TV. You said the ratings for the finals were up, or for the playoffs were up, and you're of course right. They were up about 3%, better than down. I don't think these are going to be very good, Pete. And you hit the nail on the head about if these guys indeed have some blowouts. I think the officials will try to keep it from being a blowout. But if there's a blowout, people are just not going to watch, no matter how good the basketball is. Sure, you'll get Oklahoma and OKC fans watching, but even the Pacers fans won't watch if after the first two games they're seeing something like the Minnesota series shaping up. So they've got to cross their fingers and maybe even make sure the officials are aware of who's paying their checks, who signs the check.
Yeah, I think you're right. Adam Silver, he's still, you know what? That's a guy that I don't know how he's not on the short list of guys maybe to get cut and out at some point in time, John.
He deserved it more than Thibodeau.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You're exactly right on that. All right. I had one fun one, and this came from a guy in the gym who watches every single day at the Rebels Edge. Absolutely loves it. Wonderful guy, smart guy. And he said to me, he goes, Pete, you know what? I got a question for you. If NIL existed, basically going back to when you and John were coming out of high school and going into college, so quite a while ago, both of us. But he goes, what do you think, what names pop out to you that would have gotten some serious money, back in the day or whatever? And so here's my list, and you could either agree or add some to it, either way. Number one, I think Tim Tim Tebow coming out probably would have really gotten some unbelievable NIL money, John. All he did was have 2 national championships and a Heisman Trophy. How about Bo Jackson? And he was probably, Tim would probably get between 5 and 10 million. I think Bo Jackson might be in that same ballpark. Running backs are always a little bit different, even at the NIL level. But Bo does know, and Bo is a Heisman Trophy winner and probably the greatest athlete in the last 100 years, I would say, for sure, at least in my opinion. But how about this little small list outside of that? How about Brian Bosworth? Because the Boz, John, not only was the guy a really good football player, and he was for people who don't think he was, and they always go back to the time he got run over, like that was the greatest thing ever. No, it really wasn't. The guy was a hell of a linebacker and colorful, right? I mean, who's more colorful than Brian Bosworth on the foot? He would sell tickets for Oklahoma. Tony Mandrich, how about Peyton Manning? I'll throw in maybe even a Reggie Bush, although Reggie Bush kind of got NIL when NIL didn't exist yet, when he was playing for USC, if you know what I mean. So I don't know. What do you think, though? Do you have anybody on the list that you like that I left out? I think it's kind of fun just to think about some of these guys over the years that really could have broken the bank for NIL, I think.
Well, what I would say, Pete, is the Pony Express, as I have expressed in the past, the Pony Express, they were getting paid pretty well. In fact, I don't think the NFL could equal what they were getting paid by the SMU alumni and so forth. They got the death penalty, folks. So basically, those 2 in the backfield were pretty much unstoppable. And, were they getting a lot more than other players were under the table back when that was a thing? I think that is the case. I will bet you neither one made as much in the NFL legitimately as they might have made under the table. That's just a rumor. But I'll tell you, one of the modern day ones, Pete, Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Because Cam's dad was rumored to have his hand out. Again, rumored. I'm not saying he did. I'm just saying the rumor was that Cam's dad got paid after he came out of, wasn't it JUCO, Pete? Right to the Auburn Tigers.
Yep.
And or the War Eagles, whichever. I think they go by both, don't they, Pete?
Yeah.
Auburn,
they have that Eagle. Yep.
But anyway, I think that guy would have been worth a lot, and obviously just played the 1 year really, and then went right to the NFL #1 pick. Led him, was a fabulous player. You and I got to see him when Ron Rivera was coaching the team, and because he respected Rivera, he was very nice to us. But I think to a lot of other people, he probably doesn't have time for a lot of other people. That's just my guess, Pete. But
he's colorful, I'll tell you that.
I bet he made an awful lot of money in college. Just a rumor, but I'm passing that rumor along.
I think that's a great one, and I had forgot about Cam. The Pony Express kind of doesn't count in a way because they got NIL when NIL didn't exist. So I put them off to the side, but and I'm sure Cam Newton might be in the same ballpark. Who knows? But you know what? Great players, a lot of fun. I love the fact that the guys in the gym all kind of got together and we started kicking around names, and that's how this whole thing got going. And I figured, you know what? That's a good segment. Let's do that for sports. So credit to my guy Drummer. Did a great job, and I appreciate it. And he might start being my guy to give me 1 or 2 every week or whatever he thinks is a good way to go. So I like it.
Well, you can always send us suggestions, folks. Pete's Twitter is at PETE Najarian, Najarian. And mine is just JON, same last name, Najarian, Najarian. Shoot us some ideas that you have that you'd like us to cover. We'd be happy to at least consider it. And we don't do the Rebel's Edge on Fridays because generally speaking, we travel on Fridays. So Pete and I will be back again Monday. What time, Pete? I forget. I can't remember. What time?
1 p.m. Eastern time every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday only.
Bang. We'll see you Monday.